April 12, 1943. A drizzle slicked the worn train tracks, turning them into a mirror of gray skies above. One by one, German women POWs stepped off the creaking cars into a fenced compound in upstate New York. Their hair was damp, boots caked with mud, and hands clutched worn suitcases as if holding on to more than just belongings. They glanced nervously at the armed guard stationed along barbed wire, the metal glinting dully under the overcast light. The air felt thick with expectation of cold, hunger, and perhaps even violence. These women had heard stories. Soldiers returning from Europe whispered of harsh treatment and brutal discipline. Rumors traveled quickly, carried through letters and clandestine conversations. For many, the imagination had filled in horrors that reality had yet to confirm. Yet, the reality they encountered was different. The New York camp was clean, orderly, and staffed with men and women who, like all of us, carried their own doubts and prejudices. Instead of chaos, there was precision. Instead of hostility, a neutral efficiency that both reassured and disoriented. The women were processed with meticulous care. They lined up in neat rows, underwent inspections, and were assigned bunks in tidy barracks. The echo of boots on metal grates, the faint tang of disinfectant, the smell of polished floors. It was almost surreal for those expecting grime and cruelty. By 1943, roughly 6,000 German POWs were held in camps across the United States. About 20% were women, largely auxiliary personnel serving in non-combat roles. Yet their fears were no less real. They had been raised to anticipate scarcity, hunger, and suffering. Instead, they found warmth from the early spring sun on a tidy courtyard, the smell of freshly baked bread, and guards who, while armed, did not radiate menace. Red Cross inspections of the era praised the humane treatment in several American camps. In reports, camp administrators noted the importance of decency in maintaining order. Respect and fairness foster discipline far more effectively than fear. These words, though official, would soon resonate in the small, personal moments experienced by the women. One woman might have whispered to another, incredulous, "I expected cold stares instead. Someone offered me a cup of coffee. And it wasn't even bitter." The relief, tentative and almost disbelieving, spread quietly through the group, an undercurrent of hope threading through apprehension. A small, ironic thought may have crossed their minds. After months of imagining barbed wire boot camps, a clean floor, and a friendly smile felt almost suspiciously American. And yet, even as they began to settle, a subtle tension lingered. They could not shake the feeling that the story was not yet complete, because what came next would shock them even more, and it had nothing to do with discipline or labor. The women were led into the mess hall, and for a moment, the world seemed to pause. Steam rose in lazy curls from trays lined with warm rolls, sizzling beef, and golden potatoes. The air was thick with aroma, so rich and unexpected that several of them stopped mid-step, eyes wide. A small sign above the serving line read, almost cheerfully, "Liberty Steak Burger for all POWs." Whispers spread like wildfire. Is this a joke?" one asked, hands hovering uncertainly over the trays. Another laughed nervously, a sound somewhere between amusement and disbelief. Could it be real? Or a trap? The tension that had accompanied them since the train now wavered, half curiosity, half incredulity. And then, slowly, they took their first bites. Crisp lettuce, warm bread, juicy meat. Flavors they had not tasted in months, if ever. The contrast between expectation and reality was stark. No thin broth, no moldy bread, no rationed slices of meat. Instead, they encountered abundance, freshness, and care. This was not a single indulgence. Menus rotated daily, with an effort to introduce a touch of American culinary generosity into what was, after all, a wartime prison camp. Even small comforts, cocoa for breakfast, fruit pies on Sundays, became symbols of normalcy in a world dominated by war and scarcity. By 1943, the average American soldier consumed about 3,000 calories a day. POWs in certain U.S. camps often received comparable rations, far surpassing what civilians endured in war-torn Europe. And here sat these gray-uniformed women on neat wooden benches, eating burgers that embodied abundance, comfort, and even a small, almost subversive joy. These meals, simple as they were, quietly defied the narrative of hatred and cruelty they had been prepared to endure. Contemporary records corroborate the experience. Red Cross letters and camp logs noted morale-boosting meals, praising the careful preparation and thoughtful presentation. Newspapers of the era occasionally described POWs marveling at the difference between American kitchens and European wartime scarcity, a detail that seems almost surreal in hindsight. "I never thought a hamburger could taste like freedom," one woman might have whispered, half in jest, half in awe, her voice carrying across the wooden hall. And perhaps a few quietly argued over ketchup, the faintest hint of normal life amid confinement. The transformation was subtle, yet profound. Fear and suspicion gradually gave way to cautious trust, even gratitude. The simple act of preparing a meal, steaming, fragrant, perfectly composed, transcended political lines and reminded these women that human decency could exist even amid conflict. Small gestures, almost banal in isolation, became powerful agents of hope and connection. By the end of the meal, the Liberty steak had done more than feed them. It had reshaped their perception of captivity, softened their expectations of hostility, and offered a glimpse of humanity that would linger long after the last bite. The women left the mess hall not just nourished, but transformed, carrying with them a quiet story of kindness in a world otherwise consumed by war. The memory of that first burger did not make headlines. It did not change the course of battles. Yet its impact rippled in the small, human ways that history rarely records, through whispered recollections, shared laughter, and the enduring sense that even in captivity, liberty could arrive on a plate. The story of that first burger spreads, not through battles or newspapers, but quietly, through the memory of a meal that meant more than just food, a taste of liberty in the middle of a war.